afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you watch this. My name is Vivek. I work for Topmytest, and today we will be looking at what to prepare for the group discussion and interview stage of the MBA entrance examinations and your admission process over there. Now, we have already released 3 or 4 videos with Shiksha. You can look at the Shiksha's YouTube channel. The basics of group discussion and interviews, how to go about preparing for group discussion, why do you want to do an MBA, the standard answers, strengths, weaknesses, what should be your career goals, etc. How to answer those type of questions. We have already recorded a small session with Shiksha over there. Now, today we have, for a more informative session, we have Sucharita, who is the co-founder of Topmytest. She basically works in Netherlands, and she's right now in India for vacation come work as such. Sucharita, thank you very much for joining in.
No problem. Pleasure to have and always address the students. So, and I'm really sorry to all the students that started a bit late. There was some technical problem, as Vivek has said earlier. So apologies for the delay.
We will be actually looking at a slightly different view of how to go about preparing. We have already discussed, as I said, 3 frequently asked questions. Why do you want to do an MBA? What are your career goals? What are the strengths and weaknesses? Now, let's look at the meat of the interview. Besides these 3 common parts, there are other type of questions which are usually asked in MBA entrance examination. The 2 most common sections would be on how to prepare for your academics or work experience, what type of questions will it come up. And later on, we will also look at what type of preparation should you do for GK and other areas as well. So Sucharita, what kind of questions can people expect in terms of their academics and work experience?
Okay, so first of all, it also depends. First of all, whenever there are different kinds of students who apply for a business school interview. So first, I will categorize them in 4 parts. I think that would be better. So the first category is for the people who are freshly graduates, or they are in the final year of graduation, they are preparing for their MBA, and now they are giving the interviews. The second category will be the people who have just graduated and they have a gap of, let's say, about a year, and they have decided that they will, after final year of graduation, they will sit there. I mean, they will take that time to prepare instead of working somewhere, and then they will go for straight to the MBA college. The third category is for the people who have about up to 2 years of experience, and finally, we have the experienced professionals who have let's say over 2 years of experience and less than 5 years of experience. Now, whenever it comes to the first category of students, which
so these are people who are in their college final year of graduation.
Yes.
So what should they actually prepare?
Okay, so when it comes to these students, I think the main focus should be the academic part, because this is something that they are currently dealing with on a day-to-day basis. They have not been working anywhere. Obviously, they have done their internships, they have done a lot of projects. So the main emphasis of the people who are freshly graduates, or the people who are still studying on final year of graduation, should be the academics. So let's say you're a computer science engineer, or let's say you're a commerce graduate. So you should always understand that most of your questions, apart from the general awareness and current affairs and about yourself kind of questions, the HR kind of questions, the emphasis would be a lot on your the subject that you have taken in your graduation. So anything which are the basics of your subject will be asked. Obviously, they are not going to go very deep into it, but they will definitely ask you some basic questions about. So for example, a mechanical engineer. So ideally, very 2 famous questions are laws of thermodynamics or the Carnot cycle. So this is something which even they can ask maybe a civil engineer also, because these are very basic questions. So you need to know a little bit of your basics, and I would definitely emphasize very much on your project which you do in the final year of graduation. For engineers, that is the final year of graduation project. And for the people who are non-engineers, they definitely do some sort of internships, because I know a lot of BBA students do a lot of internship. Some commerce students do some sort of internship. So you should have a very good idea about what you have done in your internship, but that doesn't mean that you have done photocopies. I mean, there are people who are, some interns are being made to do photocopies, and that is one of their job roles. But, or typing a document. So that is not something which they're looking at. They're looking at something more valuable, something more concrete. For example, if you're a BBA student, or let's say, a BBA student, usually the subjects are pertaining to, let's say, for marketing, 4 P's of marketing, photos, 5 forces. So how much do you know about the subject? They will ask some basic questions. Then apart from that, let's say you have done an internship which is related to maybe for a brand, wherein you were coordinating marketing activities for a brand, and that was your internship. That was your internship based on. So they will ask you about what was the strategy you followed, what were your main responsibilities, how did you make it better, who are the people you dealt with, did you interact with the clients? So all these kind of questions. Now I come to the second category. The second category is the people with 1 year of gap. Now, because you have a year of gap, you should be very careful about how to speak, because they will definitely ask you to justify your gap.
So, when people have some gap as such, should they try to hide it, or should they just say it out that I have a gap?
No, of course, do not hide anything, because they are very experienced, and that's one of the reasons why they are sitting on the other side of the table and taking your interview. So you should never hide anything. You should never say a lie. So do not hide the fact that you have a gap. But what you can do is, you can say that, yes, I had a gap. I mean, I was not working anywhere full time, but I was involved in a lot of other activities. So maybe you can say that I spent, apart from doing my MBA preparation, I was also involved in maybe some core curricular activities, or maybe you were doing some projects for a certain firm, or maybe working in an NGO, doing some social work. So usually the B schools love some NGO work, corporate social responsibility. It shows a lot of social responsibility. So they love the idea that, yeah, you have worked in an NGO, and you have done something concrete. And it's not only for the people who do not have any experience with NGO. Do not be scared. I mean, there are other things to do as well. So you can talk about it. So all they want to know is whether you have utilized that time only for preparing MBA, or you have done something else also. Because frankly speaking, an MBA preparation doesn't require a full 1 year. I mean, you don't require 15, 16 hours of preparation every day for a year. I mean, max to max, if you're preparing for a year, 2 hours every day is more than enough to get a good percentile. But how do you spend the rest of the 2 hours? What have you learned out of it? What skills have you developed? So if you can showcase that, then I think it should not be a problem. So you
Okay,
can just,
can I ask you a question on this? Should a lot of people, especially when they are without any work experience, there's a gap in their CV, they feel very scared. Like, how do I justify it, etc. You have told about the justifying part of it, but will I be not selected at all? Do I have no chance if I have any gap on my CV?
no, I mean, there are people who say that. I mean, that's a myth actually. I have had students who had a gap in their profile of 6 months, 7 months, and they got selected because they knew what to say, and they knew how to showcase what skills they have developed. And whether so you cannot say I have developed the skills of honesty, or I don't know, being obedient. I mean, these are the skills you should be having. I mean, this is not a skill that the corporate sector actually, I mean, obviously it requires, but you're supposed to have that, but something which is different from that. So for example, I've developed the skill of multitasking, because apart from my preparing for my MBA, I was also involved with these projects. I was also learning maybe I was learning how to play guitar over by watching online videos. So something which will keep you busy and at the same time help you to learn something out of it is what they're looking for. So yeah, if that is what they have, it should not be a problem.
Okay, what about the next set? People have work experience. Now, ideally, people with work experience do get some amount of benefit, right? I mean, like MBA is supposed to be a very application sort of a course. It is not a course which is like, very theoretical as such. But a lot of people also get stumped because of their work experience. I mean, if they have too much work experience or too little work experience, what are the type of questions that should they prepare for their academics, or should they just focus only on their work experience? How do
Okay.
you go about thinking about it?
Okay, so for the people, as I said, I had divided into four categories. So the third category is the people who have about up to 2 years of experience. Now, for them, I would say definitely specifically emphasizing on your final year of graduation subjects, and also a little bit of basics and mainly the project. You should be having a little bit of idea, and specifically if you are doing a work or a job which is related to the field of your study. So, for example, if you're an electronics engineer and you're, let's say, you're working in maybe TCS or some other firm. So you are in the engineering sector itself, or maybe you're working in an energy and chemicals company, and you're working in that sector. So definitely they will ask you some basics about it because you are in that sector. But for example, you are an engineer, but then you wrote, let's say, SBI probationary officer exam, and now you're working as an SBI PO. So your main questions would be dealing or emphasized on your experience with SBI. But apart from that, your work experience. But apart from that, they might also ask you some questions about your final year subjects, or maybe basic questions about your engineering days, or mainly your project. Or they might definitely ask you that how come you're an engineer and you decided to go to the banking sector. This is a question that they will definitely ask. And why after SBI PO? Because we all know that probationary officers gets paid really well, and they have a decent job. After 2 years, they become a branch manager, and there is a very good growth opportunity as well. So why do you want to do an MBA after being a probationary officer? So these kind of questions you can expect. Now, as far as the people with the maximum amount of work experience is concerned, they will definitely ask you questions, for example, related to your work experience, mainly your work experience, because they also know that a person who's having a 4-year work experience will not be very well acquainted with what they had studied in the first year or second year. I mean, it's but obvious because they are not in touch base with their academics. But if they are again working in a similar industry of their graduation specialization, they might get some basic questions about academics, which are being used on a daily basis. So that is something which the student should be a little careful about.
Okay. So especially with work experience, what are the type of questions which can ask? I mean, like besides say the company, the CEO, project that you're working for, what other questions? What are the frequently asked questions? And according to you, what type of questions can be asked?
So I think for work experience, they will ask you questions related to, first of all, they will definitely ask you, if you have like 4 years of experience, they might ask you a question like, why do you want to do your MBA at this point of time? You can work for 1 more year, do an executive MBA, because, for executive MBA, you usually require 5 years of experience. And colleges like IIMs and Accelerate have a specified course. For example, Accelerate has the GMP program. IIMs have an IIM PGP EX program. And so does colleges like SPGN also has a 1-year program, and Great Lakes do as well. So they might ask that, why don't you go for that particular course after working for 1 year? Sometimes they might also ask, why don't you do an online course instead of doing a full-time course? Because you have so much of work experience, why don't you? And you know that your area of specialization is in this part, so why don't you go about it with it? But if someone is, let's say, working in the finance department, let's say you're an accounts manager, but you are actually looking forward to change your career, for example, to marketing, or let's say you want to go to supply chain, and that's a good reason to justify that, yes, I am doing an MBA because that is something which I'm looking forward to, the theoretical grounding, and I believe that because I'm changing my field of interest, I think an MBA is going to help me to get that goal.
Okay. So there are a couple of student questions which are there before we move to the next part, which is basically one of them is asking, how do I overcome low marks in academics?
How do I overcome? I'm sorry.
If I have low marks in academics, 10th, 12th, graduation, etc., how do I justify that sort of a question?
Well, see, that's a very tricky thing to do, because if you have consistently you've not been performing well, there will definitely be a question. But then let's say your 12th was slightly higher than 10th. Let's say in 10th you got a 65%, but in 12th you managed to get a 70%. And then in graduation you managed to get, let's say, a 75%. let's say 7.5 CGPA. So you can say, yes, I have not been an A student, but I've consistently improved my performance over time. So that's one of the ways to justify it. Second, you can say that I have not been very academically, I have not been extremely good with my studies, but I know my basics. There are times when there are people who has the knowledge, but when it comes to performing in the exams, they have that fear and they fail to perform in an exam. There are people who can do that. So you can give that as an example, that sometimes in the main exam, I do not tend to perform the knowledge that I have. But in that case, you need to justify with the fact that if they ask you any questions, you need to answer those questions. If you're saying that you have the required knowledge. And other than that, I think it's very important that you always give a relative performance of your 10th, 12th and graduation marks. If it has been consistently going down, then you have to give a reason as to why, what phase you were going through that it went down. So as a result of which your performance was not as anticipated by you. So you need to be a little calculative when you're answering these questions.
Yeah, one more student is asking, he or she took a break for about a year to prepare for CFA along with MBA. That's why there's a gap in between. So should they tell whether they were preparing for CFA, and if no, then what should they go about?
Yeah, they can say because I mean, sometimes the people can also ask you like, okay, if you're doing a CFA, then why are you going for an MBA? So you can say that, I have I'm going for an MBA because CFA is just giving you an idea about the sector, a particular sector, a particular field, as one particular field, which is finance. But you want a kind of a holistic approach of all the fields, because that is what a business is. A business does not have just one field; it has various fields. So you need to get a 360-degree knowledge about everything. So that's how you need to justify yourself that yes, I want to. My area of interest is maybe, let's say, finance, but because it is finance, so I also, along with my MBA, I also want to have some specializations with respect to this particular field.
And also, a lot of MBAs end up doing CFA after all. Also, I mean,
Yes, that's true. A lot of MBAs end up doing CFA. I mean, I have a lot of students who have done CFA after graduating from colleges like I am Indore and all these colleges, and they are in amazing jobs, but still they have done a CFA because they are just trying to make their profile as attractive as possible. So it's just growing.
Yeah. Okay. I think that takes care of all the questions regarding this segment. Okay. Let's go to the next part, which is basically about how to prepare for current affairs, GK, what is going on around the world, etc. So, what would you suggest? I mean, like, what are the things that people should study? Because current affairs, I mean, like, unlike, say, undergraduate, unlike a written examination where you can look at the pattern of questions, like, in tests there will be only certain types of questions. In IRMA you will have only agricultural type of questions. In an interview we have seen that any type of questions can actually come up, because you can have questions which are on politics, on economics, sports, all those things. So how should people go about, what should be the basic idea behind approaching?
As I've said before, a student, when they are going for an interview, they should always avoid giving their political opinions, because you're not a political science student. You are going as a potential corporate professional. So you should or you should give your answers in the lines of three things. Usually I say economic, financial and social conditions, or the social impacts and consequences. So these should be the three major places where you should emphasize on. Now, as far as the topics are concerned, I usually say there are 5 ways you can say the latest hot political topics. For example, right now, CAA and the Register of Citizens, which is
NRC.
there, NRC, NPR. So this is something which is really over the news, because there are a lot of protests going on because of that, and a lot of people have already been claimed to be non-Indians who are illegal immigrants, although they have been living in India throughout their life. So this has actually ignited a lot of, a lot of commotion and chaos in people's minds, and a lot of students have come on roads to protest. So this is more of a political agenda. So I think this is important because as an MBA student, you should also know that what is your future in a particular economy when you're working in an economy or you're studying in that economy. A second, I would say, will be the social topics. For example, Sabrimala issue, the Ayodhya verdict, Article 377. What are the consequences? What was the verdict about? Then you can put questions related to who were involved in it. What do you think will be the future of Article 377, or how do you think it will have an impact on the entire nation of India? So these kind of topics. And then next will be the let's say technological topics. Now this is one of my favorite because I believe that being a part of the 21st century and millennials, and you should be technology friendly. So right now, technology related, you see what are the giants who are at this point of time more in news. For example, right now it's Oyo for their controversy which is going on related to the illegal practices which are going on. So for Oyo, Amazon, the big billion day sale for Flipkart and Amazon, how is it affecting all the traders across India? Because they have actually asked for a ban on those kind of brands because they feel that the investment practices or the FDI investment practices that they follow are, I mean, that is giving a lot of loss to the rest of the traders. So the traders union have actually filed a case. So these kind of things you should know. So when you are studying a topic, you just don't study the headlines. You first study about the research about the topics, see what has been going on at this point of time, who are the people who are involved, how will it impact the the economy as a whole. So every topic, whether it's social, economic, political, technology, sports related, every topic should be related to the impact, consequences, people involved. What is your take on it? And your take can be for or against, but try to avoid giving political opinions and also religious opinions. Do not go get into that because you are going to be a person from the corporate sector. As I said, you are going for a corporate sector job, so you should actually try to avoid all these taboos and try to be a person who has kind of neutral or as well as logical opinions instead of saying illogical things in an interview.
What happens, I mean, like if the technology is related to the work that I'm doing? For example, in a lot of IT companies there is this reskilling and machine learning and analytics and those type of questions. How do I prepare? I mean, like technically I might be just in a coding or a systems job at the back end. I might have heard of these things, in phases because it's affecting the entire industry. But what all should I prepare for that?
So, for example, I'll give you an example. For example, in these kind of topics, like Amazon's one of the greatest invention was Alexa. So, for Amazon Alexa, there was a time when there were some strange noises coming out from Alexa. So people said that the coding which was done or the algorithms which were designed, there were some problems in the algorithms as a result of which that happened. A lot of a lot of customers created a lot of, they had a lot of complaints about it. So when it comes to these, and if you are yourself someone who is involved in that technology, then they can ask about how relevant is it. And there is a very hot topic about it, that do you think that machines are going to take over humans? What would be your future if machines actually take over your job? I mean, there will be no no use of mankind or man to be a part to do all the jobs which a machine can do because it will be faster. So how would you justify that? So they want to see how analytical you are. They want to see whether you can handle these kind of stressful questions. And let's say if you are involved in a company which may have done a innovation which has been in the news, they will definitely ask you about why do you think it has been in the news? What can your company do to overcome the news? Overcome the problems which are right now going on. As an MBA graduate, what solutions would you suggest to them? So these kind of questions would be involved. The questions will be pertaining to these.
Okay. Okay. So we have done politics, we have done technology. What else should we study?
One is about, I told about politics, I told about technology, I told about also social issues. Then you have the sports also. So then, as I have said before, sports, there can be two kinds. So if you say that I love playing football or cricket, then you need to know everything about the game. If you're saying that I actually follow football or cricket, then you need to know about the statistics, the players, how many times the your favorite team has won. So if you say that football is my favorite game, and if they are asking you about who is your favorite team, and let's say you say Manchester United, then you need to give them who's the manager, how many times they have won, who are the players, how have they been in the news recently, statistics, and all questions pertaining to these will be asked to you.
Okay. So a lot of people are actually asking what should be the source of these preparation. I mean, GK, current affairs, etc. What are the things which we should? How should we prepare? Where should we prepare for GK and current affairs?
Well, as far as the source is concerned, I would say read the news. Mm, and news means not the newspaper. Uh, I mean, no offense, but frankly speaking, the newspapers that we get, I mean, there are a lot of grammatical errors also, and I don't think. I mean, I would not suggest, but I think the channels like CNN, even Hindu actually is a pretty good, the online one. First Post is a good online portal that you can use. So all these things, I mean, all these portals are the sources which you can actually go for and try to research about the very hot topics. And if they ask you that, do you read the newspaper daily, please don't say no. Say that you can say like, yes, I read the newspaper. Sometimes because of my work timings, it might not be possible to read it daily, but I am abreast of the news which is going on, what is happening around. I am aware of that. So,
Okay.
in this way, you can frame your answer.
Okay. Another query which students asked was, what happens if I don't know an answer?
If you don't know an answer, then just be brave enough to say that I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it. Nobody is going to kill you for
Is there like, I mean, like, do I need to know everything,
no,
or
you don't. You don't. Nobody knows everything. Nobody is perfect. We are
should I fake an answer?
no, not at all. If you don't know anything, don't give wrong points. If you don't know anything, just say I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not aware of it, and then thank you. Simple. Keep it straight. Keep it to the point.
I think we have lost her for half a minute. I will ask her to come and join in another one.
Sorry, I'm really sorry, guys. There has been some problem in my I don't know, my laptop, I guess. So it has been really giving me a hard time. So yeah, I mean, as I was saying, if you are someone who is not aware of what is going around and you're not aware of a particular topic, please say, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it. Nobody is going to kill you, because we are, at the end of the day, we are human beings and we know what to do and what not to do. Okay, so so apart from that, I would also suggest that you also emphasize a lot on WAT. Now, WAT is something which is going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes of time to write, and they will give you the topic then and then, and you write the topic. So whenever you are basing your WAT, you should understand that, again, your opinion can be neutral, your opinion can be for a topic or it can be against a topic. But there are topics where it's not an opinion based topics, it's a general topic. So in that case, try to give an introduction first. Your WAT should start in this way. So try to give an introduction. After that, the next two paragraphs should actually have facts. Facts means it is always better to give some statistics, and if you are saying that there has, because of this particular, let's say India has introduced a lot of startup schemes recently, the government of India. So because of the startup schemes, X number of people have actually gained because of the startup schemes. So I personally feel that instead of giving a particular number, always give it in percentages. So even when you're writing your questions, um, when it comes to or giving answers to the questions wherein you were involved in a project and you had to, that's one of the reasons why there was an increase in sales or increase in profits. So a lot of students give it in numbers. I actually feel that do not give it in numbers. You are going to be an MBA graduate, so always give it in percentages. So same with your WAT topics as well. So this is something, and the third part of the WAT should be conclusion. So conclusion should not be related to what is there in the newspapers or what others think. Conclusion should be based on what you think about the topic for an opinion based topic. But if it's a general topic, then you can say, okay, in the conclusion, these were the figures. This is basically the introduction. So let's say, again, let's say the startup, because I have given this example. So let's say the startup ecosystem in India. And this question is very relevant for people who say that I want to be a businessman or an entrepreneur. So let's say you say that I want to be a businessman or entrepreneur, and if this is a question that is being asked to you, then you can say that, okay, what is the startup scheme about? The startup scheme is about not only the different kinds of schemes, but it also entails startup policy. It also entails the different co-working spaces in the startup ecosystem, networking, the taxes, then the different kinds of IPRs. So all these things you need to actually mention in your essay, in your WAT. So you start with what is startup policy, how is it affecting, what is the startup ecosystem look like, and second paragraph and the third paragraph should be related to all the startup schemes that were introduced by the government of India and the different subjects related to it, as I've said. And finally, you can say about how do you think the startups or the companies in India are going to benefit from it, and what can be the economic impact of a startup ecosystem in this country. Okay, the next question which we have, the next kind of question that we have is hobbies. So hobbies and interest is a very, I think it's a very lovely question because I personally love this. You can talk as much as possible about it, and the best part is nobody is going to judge you because it's your hobby, it's your interest. So you know the best. So first, understand what is the difference between a hobby and and an extracurricular activity. So hobby is basically something which you follow because you want to do it. It's more like a passion involved. It is something wherein you don't do it dedicatedly every day, but whenever you have some time or free time, you take time out of your schedule to do it, to follow it. On the other hand, extracurricular activities are something which you do because you want to achieve something out of it. For example, let's say learning guitar. Learning guitar can be a hobby, but if you are participating in competitions which is related to music competitions and you're playing guitar in that, that becomes an extracurricular activity. So this is basically the difference that you need to be a little aware of. Now, if there can be, with respect to hobbies, there can be questions um, like, okay, what is your hobby? And if it's related to, let's say, playing cricket, who is your favorite cricketer? And then they can talk about who is your role model. Can you tell me more about it? What actually interests you? So if this is your particular hobby, why are you so passionate about it? How many days, okay, how much time do you take out of your schedule to follow this hobby? And what have you done to, in the past, have you participated in any competitions? Have you turned this into an extracurricular activity? Why didn't you ever think of turning this into a profession? So all these questions needs to be answered properly, and this is something which you should be really careful about when you answer these kind of questions. Okay, then we go to the next topic, which is role model. Okay, so role model, again, there is a myth when people say that role model is only professional, can be only on a professional area. It's wrong. Even your father can be a role model, your sister can be a role model. um, anyone can be a role model. A person who is, let's say, a person who is selling tea in a stall next to in your society can also be a role model because of the journey he has been having. So role model is more like a question which is how a person who you look up to, who inspires you. So that not might not be that you want your career choice is to have a tea stall. It might be because how he actually what are the qualities he has that you want to develop as a person, what skills you see in him that him or her you want to develop. So that's how you should actually answer the role model kind of questions. uh, a lot of people say about my mother is my role model because of the perseverance she's had of raising us. So, for example, in my interview during my MBA, like when I was going for my MBA my B school interview, and this was a question that was being asked to me, and I talked about my sister as my role model because and there were certain qualities which I gave, and I supported my qualities with examples as to why I think she is, and that is something which you should be portraying when it comes to role models. So with this, I think most of the questions I've answered. I'm again very sorry if things did not go well based with the technical, the technological glitches. Um, but I guess everyone understood what I wanted to say. All I wanted to say at the end, I want one thing which I want to tell you is um, MBA is it's not very easy to do. And the MBA course is not a very easy course. It's a pretty exhaustive course. You will be involved in a lot of projects, assignments, case studies, etc. So try to give the best out of it. Second is that the MBA preparation as well, and the group discussion and personal interview preparation is not a piece of cake with a cherry on top. So do not take this lightly. Always remember that, as I've said in my previous session, that when it comes to DILR and all these kind of questions and quantitative aptitude, these are all objective based questions. But this is a subjective based question because someone else is evaluating you. So whatever you might say might be right from your perspective, but maybe the other person who is actually listening to you might not see it to be very concrete. So you need to be a little careful and you need to write down your answers and prepare accordingly. And the third and the most important thing is please work on your communications. So communication is not how good you speak in English. Communication also means your non-verbal communications, your body language, eye contact. These are really, really important things which you should understand. And again, maybe you're an amazing person, maybe you know exactly what to do and how to speak, and but there is another side to it that the way you're speaking might sound good to you, but the person who's listening to you might think that you're an arrogant person. So again, the communication should be something which you should be a little careful about. Do not get too arrogant, do not get too sweet, do not try to impress the people by saying good things about them. Try to be as honest as possible and try to be yourself, which is really, really important. Do not fake anything and just don't take a lot of stress while you're preparing. That's all I want to say. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can always contact us. The link has been given. We have our details on the link as well. I mean, if you go to our YouTube page, you can also see the links to our various pages, and you can always give us a call. If you want to have a call with me, you can always do that. I'll be happy to help you out. And finally, all the best for your preparation. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a nice evening.